Please unmute your mics when the air is 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. So tonight we do have some business that we need to first address. There's 5 resolutions that the board will be acting on tonight, and then we're going to go right into the public works session with respect to the downtown revitalization projects, to include Swan Cove, the municipal parking lot, and the downtown renovations and restorations of the village area, including the sidewalk, lighting, etc. So before we get started, as always, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So would everybody please rise and remove your hats, please? And Councilman Shano, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to make a moment of silence for all military personnel and veterans that have fought for our country and those that are standing up for our freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So thank you all for attending tonight. This is a good turnout. I hope there will be more residents that will speak up and provide feedback with respect to this project. Your input is very valuable. We want to hear from you, and we will be having another meeting. So this isn't the only public work session that we're going to be doing. I think this is such an important project for Mahopac that we need to have more than one public meeting. So, you know, we're going to take your comments tonight, whatever feedback you might have that you want the board to consider as part of this project, please tell us, all right? Because the only way we're going to know what you want is if you share that with us. So that's what this meeting is about. So what we'll do is we're going to now get started with the voting portion of the meeting, and then once that's completed, there's only 5 resolutions. Then we're going to transition right into the workshop, okay? So just bear with us while we complete this business first, and then we'll close that portion of the meeting and then open the work session, okay? So the date is Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, and the meeting is at 7 p.m. And for the record, all town board members are present with us this evening, as is Ann Spofford, our town clerk. She's here with us. Greg Fulchetti, our town council, is all the way down to my left. And I know Mary Ann Maxwell, I think, is here somewhere with us. Mary Ann is here. Rich Franzetti, the town engineer, Jimmy Gilchrist, recreation director, and Nina Kalmeyer, his assistant recreation director. So those, and where's Mike? Oh, Mike Simone. Sorry, Mike, I didn't see you over there. Mike Simone, our highway superintendent, is here also. Did I miss any of the consultants? Yes. Rob Varra, our engineer projects coordinator. Thank you, Rich. Rob Varra is here. It's been very helpful with this project. And he's going to continue to help us out with this moving forward. And Craig Papria is here. He's the chairman of the Town of Carmel Planning Board. So we have quite a few of our consultants here to help you with any questions that you may have. And Jeff Cantelmo from Insight Engineering. Where's Jeff? Here's Jeff over here. So Jeff is the consulting engineering firm that we used to do the concept of the park. So the drawings that you see, the sketches, and the alternative design concepts are from Jeff's office. So he's going to bring us through that tonight. He's got a PowerPoint presentation that he's going to make that is part of all of that. So, and then once Jeff completes his portion of it, then we're going to open up the floor to public comment on this, okay? All right, so the first item tonight for the Town Board voting meeting is to accept Town Board minutes of June 2nd, 2021. I need a motion to accept those.
Motion.
All right, so moved by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilman Shano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, resolution number 1 this evening is a resolution requesting the American Recovery Plan Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. These are the funds that are associated with the American Recovery Act, the plan, if you will, that provided funding for municipalities throughout the nation and throughout New York State. And the town of Carmel's portion of that is $3.7 million. So in order for us to move forward with that, with receiving the final guidance and reviewing the guidance from the federal government and the state as to where we can use those funds, we have to approve this resolution first, and then that'll enable us to access those funds. So this is, just work that needs to be done in advance of the funding actually being released to the town and the guidance associated with it. So, Councilman Shano, would you read Resolution 1, please?
Whereas New York State is required by the American Rescue Plan Act, known as ARPA, to distribute coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds to non-entitlement units, known as NEUs, of local government on behalf of the United States Department of the Treasury, and whereas all NEUs must either decline or request ARPA funding by July 9th, 2021. And whereas the town of Carmel has been classified as a NEU under NEU recipient number NY3701 by the New York State Division of Budget. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funding and for the submission of all documentation required to secure the acceptance of such funding in connection with this authorization. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor, Kenneth Schmidt, is hereby authorized to execute any and all such documentation, included but not limited to U.S. Department of the Treasury Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund award terms and conditions, assurances in compliance with civil rights requirements, and any other and further documentation required to effect this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Channel, seconded by Councilman Lombardi, Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 2 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a proposal for waste wood processing, Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 2, please?
Sure. Whereas on May 19th, 2021, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, duly passed a unanimous resolution which accepted a proposal for waste wood processing services to be performed at the Secor Yard location for Material Processors, Inc., Warwick, New York, at a lump sum cost of $25,000. Now, whereas the town board has subsequently been advised by the highway superintendent that the referenced vendor has declined to commence performance and or declined to perform the waste wood processing services which had been previously authorized by the town board on May 19th, 2021. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, hereby rescinds the previous approval and authorization which accepted the proposal and authorized performance of waste wood processing services at Secor Yard for Material Processors, Inc. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, hereby accepts the proposal for waste wood processing at the Secor Yard location from Mike's Blue Wheel Services, Inc., Mahopac, New York, at a lump sum cost of $25,000 and in accordance with the proposal dated June 2021. And be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates in form acceptable to Town Council, Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all necessary contract documentation to effect the authorization upon the terms authorized herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough. Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution number 3 is a resolution awarding a bid for Carmel Water District number 8. This is for a water line replacement and it's contract C-276. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 3, please?
Sure. Whereas the town board of the town of Carmel, upon the request of Town of Carmel engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., had previously authorized as advertisement for the solicitation of bids for the installation of water lines within the Carmel Water District number 8 boundaries. And whereas such bids were received and opened by the town engineer and has recommended the awarding of bid as set forth herein, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Water District number 8, and upon the recommendation of town engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby awards the bid for the installation of the referenced water line to MTS Infrastructure LLC, White Plains, New York, the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications at an estimated cost of $28,816.70. And be it further resolved that upon review of insurance certificates, performance bonds, and labor and material bond in form is acceptable to Town Council, Town Supervisor Ken Schmidt is hereby authorized to execute any and all other further documentation necessary to accept such bid and contract for said services. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi? Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 4, is a resolution appointing counsel and authorizing commencement of litigation. Councilman Borelli, would you read 4, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, hereby authorizes Joseph A. Charbonneau, Esquire, 3 Star Ridge Road, Brewster, New York, to commence all necessary litigation required for the purpose of acquiring any and all necessary property interests for the improvement proposed in the Carmel Water District Number 2 Treatment Plant Upgrade Project, with respect to the premises and property known and designated as Town of Carmel Tax Map Number 55.6-1-31. And be it further resolved that such authorization shall be deemed to include, but not limited to, performance of all necessary legal, procedural requirements contained within the New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law, as well as the commencement of legal proceedings hereunder in New York State Supreme Court if necessary. Be it further resolved that such services are hereby authorized at a rate of $205 per hour. I offer this resolution as read. Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Borelli, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough? And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, the fifth and final resolution for this evening is a resolution authorizing scheduling of a public hearing on a proposed local law enacting Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled New York State Cannabis Law. This is the opt-out legislation, and the public hearing will be scheduled for July 14th, 2021. Councilman Shano, would you read the final resolution?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mayapack, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, July 14, 2021, at 7 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed law enacting Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled New York State Cannabis Law Opt-out Legislation, and be it further resolved that Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspaper of the town and on the Town Bulletin Board regarding public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Shano, seconded by Councilman Lombardi and Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that completes the town board voting meeting items for tonight. So at this time, if there's any members of the public that would like to come up and comment on any of the resolutions that we just acted on this evening, come on up at this time if you have any questions or comments. Okay, all right, there being none,
Make a motion to close the voting meeting and open the public portion of the meeting.
okay, so Councilman,
Yes, Frank, if everybody could hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
can everybody hear okay? Is everybody here?
Tell
Susie.
them now.
Okay.
Move the mics closer.
All right, and maybe Vinny, can somebody just, Vinny, I guess you heard
Tell
me.
Vinny to crank it up.
No, I think he did crank it up, Mike. Yeah, is that better?
I don't think it's working.
Is that better? Vinny, crank it up a little more, please.
It's pretty loud. I think you need to pull the noise a little closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
I
better?
guess my voice travels a little bit, so thank you for that. I've always had a big mouth, thanks. Only joking, only joking. Okay. So,
Just get a second.
all right, so Councilman Lombardi made a motion. And,
Second.
It's seconded by Councilwoman McDonough to close the voting meeting and open the special work session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so just one more time for the benefit of the public. I don't know if everybody has picked up. We have 50 copies of this made today of the presentation that Jeff Catelmo is going to be presenting. If they're up here, did everybody get one for themselves to follow us tonight?
Is anybody short? Because there's
Yeah.
there's 2 more.
Is there any more over there?
Yeah, there's more.
All right. So
Right
why
here, sir.
don't you come on up at
Sir.
this time?
You still giving them up? Yes.
get it?
There's another large one here, if anybody wants that.
Yeah, and if anybody would like to speak, there's a sign-up sheet up here up front. So if you would kindly just put your name on that sheet, and when the presentation is completed, I'm going to go to the list first, and then if you didn't sign up, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions and make comments at the end. Okay, so if you want to speak and you know you're going to ask questions or give us feedback or comments on the project, you can sign up for that. And for those of you who would prefer not to speak tonight, or you prefer not, if you're not comfortable coming up to a podium, I'm going to put these up here they're going to be up on the front table. Just fill out one of these cards, and you can indicate your question on here. Just give me contact information, an email or a phone number, where I can get back to you with respect to your question. All right? So if you don't want to speak tonight, but you do have a question or a comment, you can just fill this out. Just grab it up here. So these are the people who don't.
Don't want to speak, just want to ask questions.
Right. So once again, just to recap a little bit. So this is the first meeting, the public workshop regarding the downtown revitalization projects. And I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. As I said earlier, your opinion on this and your feedback, input is extremely valuable, and we want to hear it. So it's your money. You're the taxpayers. It's your money. It's your property. It's not mine. It's yours. And we want to hear from you because it's a big investment. And, we started this a few years ago. Myself and Councilman Borelli kind of kicked this off with looking at the properties in downtown Mahopac regarding the Swan Cove site. We thought that would be a great site for a town lakefront park, and we began negotiating the purchase of that with the current owner. And I'm pleased that we were able to arrive at a purchase price, and we went ahead and we purchased it and we closed on it. There was no other property on Lake Mahopac that would have been suitable for a town park. Most of the property on the lake is privately owned, as you know. So when this property came up and it became available for the town to consider purchasing, we went ahead and we moved forward with it. And I to this day, I stand by the purchase of that property because it's 200 feet of lake shoreline on Lake Mahopac that we probably, if we let it go and the developer developed it or a developer built on that site, we would never have gotten that property. So it's a good acquisition. It's good for the taxpayers. And when it's built out, with your feedback of what we're going to do there, it's going to be a beautiful park. And even those who didn't necessarily support the project, I believe when they see it completed, they're going to say, wow, this turned out really nice for the community. So I'm pleased that we went ahead and did that. And we also purchased four parcels from the Mahopac Bank, and which will be a future municipal parking lot, because as you know, parking in downtown Mahopac is horrible. You could drive around the block 3 or 4 times before space opens up for you to park in town. So we felt that the board felt that it was important that we acquired property that we could create a municipal parking lot out of. And it just so happens that the bank was willing to negotiate with us. Again, Mike Borelli and I, Councilman Borelli and I negotiated the purchase of that property, and we arrived at a very good number. I felt it was 4 parcels, and we paid $395,000 for it, and half of the cost of that was paid by the New York City DEP through Good Neighbor funding. So the DEP did pay for half the cost of the bank parcels, and we paid the taxpayers, paid for the other half of that. So essentially we got that for $200,000 because the DEP paid for half of it through Good Neighbor funding. So that was good news. So anyway, enough with that. But again, thank you all for being here. And at this time, I'm going to open up the floor to Jeff Cantelmo from Inside Engineering. He's going to present the alternative drawings that we have, how we arrived at these current drawings of the park and the schematic and the way the design is, the scope of it. It was through the internal in-house people, our consultants, Jeff, the town board, Recreation, Jimmy Gilchrist, Dave Fafaro from Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and Nina. We all weighed in on this, and we presented what we felt would be a start-off design of the park, if you will, where we looked at different scopes and different elements and things like that. And that's how we arrived at what you're seeing right now on these boards. So Jeff went back, he tweaked them a little based on our input and our feedback to Jeff. So now it's your turn. So listen to the presentation. It's very comprehensive. Jeff did a great job on working on this. And then we'll go on to hearing from you folks, okay? So thank you so much for that, and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Quintelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying, and Landscape Architecture.
Put it a little closer.
Yep. Jeff Quintelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying, and Landscape Architecture. I'm here this evening with one of our associates, Dawn Lewis McKenzie, who's a registered landscape architect, who collaborated with me on the park project, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. My office has been in Carmel for 32 years. We're very proud to be involved with this project. We're excited to see it come to fruition. Unfortunately, this is just the first step in the concept plan or schematic planning associated with the park. So our scope of work here is very defined and just brings us to a point, and we're going to walk you through what that scope of work involved. So the first part of the presentation might be a little mundane, might be a little boring, but it's really the backdrop or the foundation for the plans, which is the exciting part. And Dawn's going to get to do the exciting part, and I'm going to kind of do the boring part. So with that, the downtown project really was made up of 4 parts. The 4 parts were Cherry Lane, Route 6N between Cherry Lane and the Chamber Park, the Chamber Park itself being redeveloped, and then the new park and parking lot on the former Swan Cove and Mayapack National Bank property. Again, you know, the Route 6N improvements involved sidewalks, lighting, parking reconfiguration, the Chamber Park, redevelopment of the park itself, and some parking improvements, and then the redevelopment of the new park and some improvements to Cherry Lane. Each one of these 4 components had assigned to us subcomponents of what we were to study and what components we were to weave into the overall plan. So Route 6N, test. Okay. I don't think it's on, but
It's not that, it's the machine.
test 1, 2. Route 6N improvements included the elimination of the angled parking and replacement of that angled parking with parallel parking, parallel to the curb. That actually allows the sidewalk in front of the stores to be widened by as much as 8 to 9 feet. That was about 600 feet of sidewalk, also street lighting improvements, street trees, pedestrian improvements, ADA accessibility improvements. The Chamber Park involved some other components, which involved the extension of a main culvert which discharges into the existing channel, the consideration of constructing a new bridge connecting the 2 parks, the expansion of parking, the removal of the existing fountain, the dredging of the channel, and the repowering of the lights and tying that in with the downtown improvements. The park itself, the new park, which again we call Swan Cove or Mayapack, Tompkins Mayapack Bank area, would again include the bridge, walkways, picnic areas, benches, a park building for the rec department, which would be primarily utilitarian, include bathrooms, include program space. Again, the dredging of the channel, the addition of a fishing pier, a kayak or canoe launch, a fountain in the channels between the 2 parks, and then again the new and expanded parking. The new parking number that was settled on in some earlier studies the town had undertaken was 80 parking spaces. So the 3 concepts you see that we've developed all include 80 parking spaces. The Cherry Lane improvements, again, this is fairly mundane, but Cherry Lane is right now a little bit of a free-for-all. The idea is to work within its existing 25-foot right-of-way, which is really narrow, but improve that in a way that would channelize traffic, maybe provide some opportunities for some parallel parking, and then connect the pedestrian connection from the park and Route 6N along Cherry Lane. So our work set up in three very distinct tasks. The first was the data collection, mapping, and project initiation. This was really a function of us gathering a bunch of information that was either developed by the town or others regionally that we compiled and put together for our own purposes, but also for the town and for future work that would take place on the park. It included parking studies, lake elevation studies relative to flooding, easements and land use, utility studies, surveys, geographical information, system information that was available by the county and others. So we compiled all of that in our phase one. Phase two involved us digging into that data to understand the site better and perform some analysis. We also supplemented that work with some very specific additional work. We performed a review of those studies, but also prepared a hydraulic and hydrologic model of that area so we could understand the flooding as well as the future stormwater impacts associated with the park and be able to plan accordingly. We also conducted geotechnical investigations in the form of soil borings. We bored down below the existing pavement and topsoil to understand what was below the ground. We did 19 borings. We found what the soil was made up of structurally, as well as what the quality of that soil was in terms of any potential pollutants or environmental concerns going forward. We also commissioned a study to understand some of the permitting aspects of dredging the channel, which will involve the Army Corps of Engineers, the New York State DEC, and the New York City DEP. This was all summarized, and again, it was presented back to the town and the town board, the town engineers department, and reviewed, forming, again, our basis or our foundation that we were going to build on in order to do the park plans and studies. Lastly, our work ended with, as I said, the studies that you see this evening. There were interim meetings after initial studies were done, as the supervisor indicated, where we got some feedback with the town board and the rec department, highway department, et cetera. And that leads us to why we're here tonight, which is really the most important part, which is to get your input. And I'm going to now talk a little bit about Route 6N and Cherry Lane in just brief detail, and then give it to Dawn to talk about the fun part. Again, Route 6N, the idea there is reorient that parking, get better sidewalks, get better ADA accessibility, street trees, lighting improvements along that strip, and make sure that that strip ties in appropriately to the future park. Cherry Lane, again, a little more challenging with the 25-foot right-of-way, but get Cherry Lane arranged in a way where consider one-way circulation from Route 6 to 6N, put curbing in to channelize the traffic movements, provide sidewalks to connect Route 6 to Route 6N, and then consider some alternatives for some potential parallel parking. The park. So the park, this was our challenge with the park. How do we balance the green space with the gray space, or the parking with the actual park? And, where do you cite some of those components, and how do you balance that out? And again, we found it to be a little bit of a challenge, but as we worked through it, we thought it became pretty clear. So with that, I'm going to pass this on to Dawn. One last comment from me just had to do with some of the traffic considerations that were important, and that was the fact that Sycamore Road is actually a private road that the town does not have ownership or control of. The DOT traffic signal upgrade that recently took place has defined our entrance into the park, and we're kind of fixed with that. And then the bank itself was a consideration that we had to maintain their ingress and egress as well as the circulation for their drive-through. So these were considerations in looking at the bigger picture. So with that, Dawn's up. He's going to talk quickly about the three concept plans. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So each of you have a packet, I just want to point out, first off, that the first sheet of each of the alternatives just shows the park itself without all the labeling. And then if you shift to the next sheet, it actually calls out each of the elements and starts out with the ones that are consistent for each of the park spaces. So I find that very helpful, so I'm sure you will too. So let's just take a look at this. This is all concept one for the park, your park. And so some of the elements that we were asked to provide was to dredge the channel, that'll open that up a little bit, and actually dredge along the waterfront, and provide fountains within that and a bridge to connect the two park spaces. And you can see in this particular alternative, we've tried to provide connectivity between green spaces from one side of the park to the other across the channel by laying the parking off to the east side a little bit and opening it up towards the middle. Gives you that feel of more green connectivity. So important elements to point out in this one is we've provided 80 parking spaces. That's municipal parking, shared use for downtown as well as for the park. And that includes 18 dedicated parking spaces for the bank. Oh, good. That's not me. Had to check a sec. And the rec building is located up in the northeastern corner out by the water. It's been tucked over on that edge so that it doesn't block the view from the road or from the park spaces to the lake. There are strong pedestrian connections from the parking area to the downtown and from the downtown to the parking area. There's a lot of different usable spaces for different types of activities, and programming for the recreation department, and nice big open green spaces that can be used for civic activities. In addition to that, we've got a lot of area along the lakefront for people to hang out, and so there's sitting area at the existing chamber park. That one, we're in this particular scheme, we're actually it's showing something that would have a roof over it, so maybe it's like a gazebo or something like that, but it's out at the waterfront. And then on the new park side, there's a big sitting area which will have maybe some movable seating or something like that. And then the entire waterfront is intended to be a bigger open space, which has a lot of room for people to hang out or stroll or whatnot there. And each one of these includes a fishing pier, a boat tie-up dock, and a place to launch kayaks or canoes. There's storage there for behind the building for the recreation department for their sailboats or kayaks. Dominant drop-off point. This particular one shows relocating the fountain, and there's a bridge, I think I already mentioned, connecting the two sides, as well as keeping the existing pavilion, I guess, right, the existing gazebo on the Chamber Park side. So that's generally the highlights of this scheme. So then if we go to alternative number 2, let's just take a look at it without all the labeling on it first. This one has a very big green space out by the lake, so we call it the Big Green. It also contemplates keeping the existing shade tree that's out there as part of an element at this site. It's got 80 parking spaces in the parking lot, including 18 dedicated for the bank. It also includes a small parking lot at the front of the existing Chamber Park site, generally in the location where the parking lot is now. There's a bridge connecting the two sides, and we've reorganized the space on the existing Chamber Park site, but it still has the playground, it still has the existing gazebo. It's just a change in the circulation system. There's picnic areas there, strong connections between the parking lot and the downtown, pedestrian connections, and a bridge connecting the two park sites. That's really just a general overview of what this one does. It also has a lot of seating out at the lake, including a couple of outlook spots and possibly movable furniture, all things that will be defined as the concept gets refined. Dredging the channel, fountains in the middle, same elements, the boat tie-up dock and place to launch a kayak on the lake, that kind of thing. So, and then in alternative 3, this one also has a large green space out by the lake, provides 80 parking spaces in the municipal lot. Strong connections to downtown, strong pedestrian connections, as well as multiple spaces for different types of activities at the park. This one has 2 bridges. One of them is connecting out to a sitting area at the point end of the north end of the existing Chamber Park site. Also contemplates preserving the existing tree, has the rec building tucked over to the side so it doesn't interfere with the view. Let's see, and as the other 2 do, you've got a lot of space to sit out at the waterfront, get everybody out to the water. So I think that's a general overview of the 3 concepts.
I'll just conclude by saying that, we were given the components that make up this park. And those components, as I understand it, were the byproduct of some earlier public input that was received by the town, as well as input from town board members, town departments, et cetera. So, if you like certain components or you don't like certain components, that's important for the town board to hear tonight. If somebody asks us why we put that in there, the answer is going to be because we were asked to put it in there. If somebody asks us why we put something somewhere, we're going to tell you what our thought process was. So with that, we're here this evening to answer questions. I know the town board eager to hear from you. So with that, we'll turn it back over to the supervisor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that presentation. Susie, just grab the list, please. So I hope you all have had an opportunity to either look at the alternative concepts on the boards that are in the back. There's boards over here. And Insight's presentation also would have given you the ability to see what we've, put together thus far with respect to what our thoughts are from the consultants and those that participated in the original design of this, what you're seeing tonight. So with that said, we're going to go right to the comments from the public, and we're going to go right down the list. So when I call your name, just come on up to the podium, if you will, please, and speak closely to the mic so everybody at home can hear you and everybody in the meeting room can hear you. This is also being aired tonight on Comcast 95 and Verizon 24. It's also being live streamed to our website, and you're also going to have an opportunity to replay the meeting over YouTube. So there's a few different ways that if you weren't able to make it tonight, or if you would like to review this again after the meeting is over this evening, you can have access to see the entire meeting once again right from home. If you like, there's something you missed or something you want to take another look at, you'll be able to do that, because we wanted to make sure that it was important that the public had access to everything we're doing with respect to this project. So the first person who signed up tonight is Tony Poalo. Tony? Okay, Tony, if you would just come on up to the podium, please, and just... I already gave your name, so you don't have to restate that, Tony,
Okay.
unless you'd like to.
No, it's okay. Everybody hear me? I wrote a couple of notes here. Now, you had said that first, I'm assuming this is going to be a very expensive ordeal. Now, you had gotten forced parking spaces from the bank initially was $395,000, correct?
Correct.
And you were able to get it for $200,000. The balance of that, will that go towards help funding the development of that?
Well, the $200,000 that we applied towards the purchase of the bank parcels were out of the general fund. So it was just monies that the DEP Good Neighbor funding didn't cover towards the cost of it. So we haven't allocated the additional $200,000 that we saved towards the project.
Right.
If that's your question, we have not done that.
Will you?
Well, we would absolutely consider doing that. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also, the general fund is also taxpayer money.
Right.
It's just part of the general fund, but
Okay.
we're certainly going to look at all different funding streams and avenues that we will be using as towards the build out of the park.
Okay. Also, the present launch site that you have, the kayak canoes, presently that's 5 foot. And on your scale, you have it down 1 inch equals 30 feet. According to my calculations, you're going to make that 7.5 feet wide. I've been kayaking for about 10 years, and my wife also, and we've been going there. What you're going to have is a 7.5, 7.5 feet wide area that the town's going to be using and the residents are going to be using. So you're going to have people coming and going. We've already found that while we're going to launch, we had people waiting to come in because there was no room for them to come in. So 7.5 feet is not big enough. You'd have to go 12 to 15 feet wide.
Okay, that's noted, Tony.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so that's your issues with the launch.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just something that, should take
Okay.
into consideration because you're going to have a lot of people there. And thank the Recreation Department and the Town Board for putting the launch site in there now. Oh, that's another thing. The rocks that are on the side of that launch, some of the individuals that are kayaking, they have very expensive kayaks. And if you hit that, they will break. So it'd be nice to have something different there at that launch site than rocks, or boulders,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it really right now is not a launch site. It's just, we're just putting stuff in there until we have
I
all this.
understand
So
that.
the kayakers are going to have to take precaution for it.
I understand.
Yeah, but we're going to note that down.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next speaker is Joe Scullin and Ted Coogler.
Good evening, folks. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to share a photo I took 3 summers ago. I was up at a party, college reunion, and I was in an old river town just south of Augusta, Maine. And I spent a weekend in this town, and it was an old factory town that they just had spent the better part of 5 years renovating. And the cherry on this town was this beautiful river park that I had the chance to spend a Saturday evening at. And I snapped a photo just at dusk. And I had shared with the board a couple of years ago, Michael and Susie, I believe, boy, this would look great if we do our park. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. And what happened was each business owner and folks in the community all bought a chair and had the little plaque on it. It was really cool.
I think I know the park you're talking about.
Wow.
Kind of fun, It's just one of those things. It's just great. Really humbling and charming. And I was blown away at how this town is totally revitalized. Brew pubs and
Speaker, Joe. Joe, speaker.
They were plastic, fiberglass.
Speaker, Joe.
Parliament Parliament.
Joe.
Yeah, it was plastic, and there was a little brass tag on the front of it with who purchased and donated the chair. It's kind of fun.
I personally had an injury related to
Yeah.
insufficient weight.
We can't, you can speak, but
You
can
can
you go up
speak
to the?
right after.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what we saw, and I was kicking around with Teddy, and he says, "Blow it up and bring it up for the evening." So,
Oh, I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
It's nice, beautiful. Yeah.
really,
Nice
and
look.
as business owners in town for forever, I commend the board, Michael and Kenny, for jump-starting this project, for the town board rallying around it. This is something that can really turn the town around. It really takes vision and some thoughtful process. So, hopefully, we get there.
That's right. Great. Thanks, Joey. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, next is April Daly. April?
Hello. Of course, my name is April Daly, and first of all, I want to applaud the effort by the board to spearhead this initiative. It's very exciting in terms of talking about and having a vision for the revitalization of our downtown Mayapack. So when I look at the area, the one thing that comes to mind right away, of course, is traffic flow, and certainly the constraints of the existing roads like Sycamore and things of that nature. So, for example, in terms of traffic flow, in my mind, it makes sense to actually restrict the last 2 blocks of 6N prior to the 6N6 merge to really just local traffic. So I think it's great, Cherry Lane being one way into the hamlet, the downtown hamlet. Any consideration to routing the eastbound routing the eastbound 6N traffic to Clark Place to have it merge with Route 6 before, or two blocks effectively before the current location? Because it seems like with entrance to the parking lot, the new parking lot, and that merge there, it's going to get very congested. It's already congested. So that's one thing I would ask the board and the committee to consider. The other thing is it looks like, or maybe it's included, maybe not, but it seems to be a missed opportunity in terms of building sustainability in. So, for example, has consideration been given to using solar panels on the office and restroom at the park, as well as the street, the lights within the park and things of that nature? So, I see in the presentation some of the lights are going to be powered, I guess, off the 6N line, but maybe, we can use solar to reduce the costs for that. So, when I think about the downtown Mahopac hamlet, my vision is, for example, I think a lot of people may have this vision, we're going to have this wonderful park, and we really want people to come down there and spend money. So, and of course, now this would be something that would be maybe more for the master plan, but the idea that, of course, you have to work with external agencies, but, for example, to really shut down that last block of 6N, and make that all for foot traffic, for example. So with regard to that, so I understand we're increasing the sidewalks, and I think that's great, but is there potential, for example, for restaurants to have outdoor seating? So that's, it would be something to consider. Let's see. Okay. So bicycles. So I did notice that there's some consideration with regard to bicycle racks on 6 off Cherry Lane. I would absolutely encourage support for bicyclists. We want to encourage the people coming off the trail to come in, spend some time at the park, and of course spend money. So whether that be off of Cherry Lane, or maybe off of the parking lot at Mount Hope Road. But I think in general we want to encourage, storage or bicycle racks so people can come in and then, use our area. Has any consideration also been given to installing cameras within the park? So I would certainly want to consider that as well, surveillance cameras. I mean, that's the wave of the future. And the last point in question is really not only for the board, but really for the whole business community. What are the ideas, and how can we continue to revitalize that area, particularly with the storefronts and buildings? I mean, they're quite old, and so we want to, I would imagine we want to revitalize them, and have the type of businesses down there that are going to encourage people to come. So back to the vision, the idea, if we have a lot of restaurants and other types of shops, I imagine people coming off the lake and then eating at restaurants and then coming to the park, listening to music, and then also, taking a break from the music and maybe going eating at a park or getting ice cream, coffee, whatever. So just more things to bring people in. Of course, it's an interesting question with regard to back to traffic flow. Yeah, if we bring people in, what's the optimum amount of time for them to stay in the area? Which is ideally when they stop spending money, then we want them to leave. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, next is Tom Anakari. Tom?
Thank you, Kenny. First off, kudos. Great designs, great ideas. It really will make the hamlet a Renaissance destination spot, which will be good for business and people who live there. In regards to the Cherry Lane and what April was saying about closing off that block, which you can't do, it's a state road and it's busy. However, I've seen places in Peekskill where they have closed off, say, North Division Street. All the local restaurants put tables out. They had maybe a jazz band playing. So that could be something, and that Parks and Recs could, manage throughout the year on weekends and maybe special holidays.
And that would mean that you would make Cherry Lane one way going to Route 6. And it's kind of like a business bypass. People who don't want to go to the stores can, if you do it the other way, and this is good for all that stretch of Route 6, because it gets busy, is turning lanes. Some of the, and I've personally have measured it in Restaurant Row, the shoulders. They're very wide. That's wasted space. You can make them narrower, and make it no parking, of course, and have a turning lane to the different shopping centers and restaurants, etc. This will make it safer, more convenient, and it's easy to do. You don't have to widen the road. It's already wide enough for the 2-lane. I like the solar-powered light idea, April. And for the park lights, instead of taking it off the 6N feed, that would set us up for a green situation. And I think that's... Oh, the rec building placement. I personally think, and you can hear from other people, that the rec building should be set back off the water to allow the big green. Love the idea. And I don't know what the square footage is going to be of this building, but having it set back from the water preserves that big green effect.
That's option 2, right?
What?
That's option 2.
Right.
Yeah.
The two-bridge concept. I like the two-bridge concept because it brings people that are in the parking lot to different parts of the Chamber Park. And, the dredging will be really helpful for that. As far as what the gentleman was saying about kayaks, brings up the whole idea of the river wall or the lake wall. Instead of having boulders, at least where the launches are, having a wider launch, but they can do Charlie's here from Apex Marine. He can tell you all about break walls. That would be an excellent answer for that issue. But basically, that's art sculptures. Consider art sculptures in the lot and along 6N. You'll have. It gives it a kind of a cultural air and destination type of situation. That's all. But good work.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Linda Horton. Linda?
Can everybody hear me? I would like to thank the board for putting in the kayak launch. Just to introduce myself, I am an ACA Level 2 kayak instructor, and I've used the launch. And I agree with Tony about the boulders. Some of us have very expensive 16 to 18-foot sea kayaks that are carbon Kevlar, and if we hit into those rocks, it could do a lot of damage. You have to think of them like a sports car. I also like to teach safety and rescues, and I see a lot of people on the lake not wearing life jackets and doing really crazy things, and I have to leave my deck because I'm off the lake and I feel like I can't eat my dinner if I have to run out there and rescue somebody. With that said, having a wider launch area would be very great for us, for canoes and, people that don't have a lakefront that want to get into the water. Also, if we could have a few dedicated parking spots, we launch all over the East Coast, and most places have like a 10-minute launching area close to the put-in, because our boats are heavy, that you just drop off your boat and then you park in the lot, and then you come back and pick up your boat. And you don't stay there long. You're just laying out your equipment. So if that could be taken into consideration, we would really appreciate that. And some signage. Is this kayak launch going to be only for Mahopac Carmel residents, or is it going to be open to anybody who wants to come? I don't know, because it could get very crowded.
Yeah, it'll be open to Carmel and Mahopac residents.
Okay, so I think some signage saying that. Otherwise, it could get really crowded.
It's funny
there.
that you say that, because I was at the farmers market a couple of weeks ago. I think I told you, and a gentleman and they parked in where the vendors would usually go, right, Susie?
Yeah.
And they ended up having to be there until 2 o'clock. So I was talking to them. I said, where are you from? You from town? They came from Long Island, East Long Island, to Mayapack, and I said, why? And they said that this lake is part of some survey was done, that it's like one of the best lakes to kayak in, and I think they belong to some other club, maybe a fishing club with some people here in town. So they came from really, really far to come to our lake to spend the whole morning there.
Yeah,
It
I
was
also
pretty
have a
interesting.
kayaking meetup group, and we have 3,000 members, but we don't see them all the time. It depends where we launch from, who comes. And some people have already asked us, oh, can we launch at Lake Mayapack? I said, I'm sorry, you're not a resident. You have to come with us as a guest, and then, you could launch until they limited to only residents' cars. But that's something for consideration, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Linda, just one question for the few dedicated spots. So, just so I understand, so you would park your car there,
Right.
put the kayak
Unload-
unload it, and then come and move the car to
Yes.
another spot?
Yes,
And
move
then when you
it
come
further back in the
in?
lot, yes.
Okay.
Because we're carrying boats, some of us have wheels, some of us don't, but the boats could weigh up to 70 pounds, and
Yeah, it's heavy.
it's a lot loading and unloading,
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The
How about
public
a
know-
dry, how would a dry area work?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry?
Like a dry docking spot, like somewhere that you could put your boats instead of in the water, so it doesn't tie up the traffic going in or out, but you can dry dock it in the meantime while you park your car. Would that work?
Right, we would leave them on the side, and I would also like to bring up the fishing pier if it wasn't on top of the kayak spot, because we've launched from Orchard Beach, and a lot of people fish in the dedicated kayak spot, and I can't tell you how many times we've gotten caught up with, hooks and, monofilament and things like that. So if they're separated from us, it would eliminate that problem, because, the lines do move, and, we don't want to get into a situation with the fishermen, and I'm sure they don't want to get involved with us either.
The fishing pier is moved on
Thank you.
diagram 2. And in the negotiations with the bank,
Thank you.
it was, it's been stated, and it's in writing, that the access to the lake is for community residents only.
Right.
That's written in stone.
Okay. All right, next speaker is Justine Broderick and Joan Spotts.
Hello.
Did you want to come up together, or? Okay, all right.
Don't make me do it all.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Justine Broderick from Lionsgate Property Management. We're the managing agent for White Sail Condominiums. I just had a couple of questions because it's unclear by the drawings. How close are you actually going to be to White Sail with some of the buildings or some of the kayak launch and the building that's going on there? We can't tell by the drawing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we know yet, because this is all preliminary, so anything on these drawings could be moved, but maybe Jeff can answer what it presently is shown on these.
Sure.
About 20 feet off, Jeff, now from the building. On
Yeah.
diagram 2, you're probably, if you expand the kayak to the left, away from the building, you're still about 20 feet off the building.
Yeah, so the question is White Sail, which is shown in...
White Sail sits higher.
Yes, in gray. Anybody's been down there recently will see that White Sail just recently rebuilt a retaining wall, which is in the proximity of the property line between the White Sail property and the park. And as Mike indicated, there's an elevation change with that. So each one of these is a bit different, and depending on how things get sited. This particular alternative 2, the building separated from White Sail by probably almost 50 feet. The kayaks launch is probably 25 feet. And again, each one has a slightly different arrangement. But again, these are not designed in their final place or to their final size necessarily. So that will vary based on whatever concept is pursued and what the detailed design is.
So when would we know, like what would be?
Ken, if I may?
Yeah.
When we sat down with the design engineer on the last review, the one thing that jumped out at me is the fishing pier, which a lady brought up that it was too close to the, and we moved it all the way out. It says, the people in Whitesale are not going to want to look down at the fishing pier. And if someone taking his kid fishing is not going to want to look up at Whitesale. So we moved that all the way down. The three designs you have out there are for the people to look at. It's all food for thought right now.
Okay. What's the seawall going to be made
So
of?
it's just concept. They're all concepts.
Okay. Do you have any idea of what the seawall is going to be made out of?
What it
No,
be made
no.
out of?
Okay.
Not at this
Okay.
point, no.
Okay. And I just have a comment also about the traffic, because I think anybody knows, trying to make a left out of Whitesale, sometimes it's almost impossible. Just want to keep that into consideration, too. It's a concern of some of the residents there. And then what do you think the chances are that I could get some trees on our side, too?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Some trees on your side?
Because by the drawing, the trees are all on the left side, and on our side, there's nothing. I didn't know if there was a fence going to be up, or just to block, to have some privacy.
Your parking lot and building is approximately 8 feet higher than that location.
Right.
You'd have to put some real narrow, fast-growing,
Okay.
you
Is
know,
it, do you plan on doing
tuck-
any
tucked in
sort
the
of
corner
fencing
there, but-
there, or is it just going to stay the way it is?
you know, we're open. Do you have a grass area? Do you have a grass area? If I remember correctly, because I know when I owned it, we had a
Yes.
water
There is a
problem.
fence on top.
Do you have a grass area
There is
at the
grass.
end, at the end of where you built that wall?
Yes.
It would be more beneficial for us to plant on your property higher, so it would give you a little
Okay.
privacy. We could probably plant 6 to 8 foot across that area,
Okay.
and you already pick up, if we plant 8 feet down, an 8-foot tree, we're all gonna be dead before you cover it.
We're just trying to stop it from the people
But,
from going.
you know, the same way you came to us to use the property to build a wall, you know, as a good neighbor to each other, I don't think this board would have any problem of planting some things on your property.
Okay.
And, you know, it would serve both.
Okay. All right, that is it. Thank you.
I just have one question. Isn't there a fence on top of the wall already?
Yes.
So you have the retaining
We
wall?
have, yeah, we have
and
a
a fence
retaining wall.
on top of the
It's
wall?
just that towards the end, we have a problem right now
All
with
right.
people coming over.
By the way, you did a nice job
Yeah,
on the
it's
retaining
nice.
wall.
Yeah,
It
good.
looks
Thank you.
nice.
Thank you.
But with the fence on top,
The fence
I
is
don't think
nice.
we need to add another fence on our side because you have retaining wall with the fence on it.
Right.
But we could consider what Mike mentioned, that what you talked about, maybe some privacy trees, there's some screening for trees or something. But we'll take a look at that.
If you have an area where you think you need some privacy, just meet one of us out there and we'll work it out.
Okay, all right, great.
Well,
Thank
so,
you.
wait, Ms. Broderick, what end do you have an issue where people are entering? The water end or the?
Yeah, towards the water.
Okay, so, but your new fence doesn't go all the way to the
We're
water. then.
missing one piece,
Right.
but then they still could go into the water on some of those rocks and come right over. But that's what they're doing right
Okay.
now.
Right, because that wall tapers down from 8 feet. It goes
Yeah.
down to about 2 or 3 feet.
That'll be worked out.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Dan and Lois Chinovsky. Hi, how are you?
Again, my concern is with the boat launch. This will be the first time that most of Mahopac will have a chance to get to the lake, and I think that that particular space should be a concern to everybody. Is there any consideration of bringing it into the dredged area? Making it a larger area where people can actually launch boats from the canal there?
That's why I was doing this.
You're talking about this canal in here?
Yeah.
That they're going to dredge, correct.
I believe we spoke about that, and for safety reasons, it would not be okay, but we're going to put it down in our notes and relook at it, revisit it.
I'm just thinking of that and fishing in the same location. It would be a very difficult thing.
Yeah, I think right now what they were saying is we would move the fishing pier over away from the kayaks, so they're not interfering. Yeah.
In two, Susie, it is moved over.
Yeah,
In two, the dock is
Yeah.
moved over further towards the canal, the channel, if you will. So the idea of putting the boat launch where we have it on the drawing, on the design, is to put it over in that corner, so that the people that are launching the kayaks or whatever non-motorized vessel they have, it'll be easier for them to get in and out without, if other users of the park are there at the time. We just thought that having that dedicated on its own in that corner of the lake frontage would be easier for them for that. You have a good idea though with the channel, but I don't think the channel's good. That'll work for that particular type of launch.
The only obstacle in the channel also is the bridge. There's one diagram shows one bridge and the other one has two. So I don't know if that would have
The
the height
second bridge
to
would
go
be,
under the bridge.
the second bridge would definitely be in the way. And the parking space. I know I've lived here for quite a few years, and I can remember 6N flooding. Is the parking space going to be a solid surface, or is it going to be like the library where you can have the drainage right through it?
Yeah, Jeff, can you speak to that, or Rich?
Sure. Right now, the parking's envisioned to be asphalt. The parking's envisioned to be raised up so it doesn't flood. There may be some pervious pavement of some type integrated into the park, maybe in certain sitting areas, walkways, or there's a lot of different products from porous asphalt to porous concrete to porous pavers to the waffle blocks you're referring to at the library. And as part of green infrastructure design, those are considerations that will be brought into the park depending on their actual use. But the parking itself right now is envisioned to be a blacked out parking area.
As far as consideration of the three alternatives, I think some sort of a cost should be considered the next time you have your meeting, because you're moving the fountain, you're moving the playground from one to the other. That's got to be expensive rather than leaving where they are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
point, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Gene Hopper. Gene?
Hi, everybody. Jean Hopper. Yes, thank you very much for having this meeting. It's great to see everybody turning out for this. I'm going to second what I heard a lot of people say. I think it was Tom, that rec building be as neat and as small as possible and set as far away from the water as possible. We have a lot of recreation property already, and I'm not really sure it would be stored there. I guess kayaks, a canoe, or whatever, but I think that should be kept to a minimum. Keep that lone tree. Let's fight for that poor little tree. Again, with, like April said, sustainability practices for any energy uses that we have. Talking about kayaks, would we register? Would we have like residential registry stickers on each kayak so that you would be able to tell,
Yes.
you know, who's from town and who's not?
Nina just shook her head yes.
She's terrific. As far as, I love the idea of moving the kayak launch. That was really something originally that I hadn't even thought about. Kind of interesting idea. I'm sure that you've all looked at that, but that's, again, takes away usage of that waterfront, which is, you know, it's such a small property. If you walk it, it's, what, 200 feet across? So, and then you have parking for half of it, so you're talking, I don't know, maybe not even an acre of green space, which isn't very much. So we're, as long as we keep a sharp eye on keeping that as green and as passive as possible. Dredging. I've heard you mention dredging. Obviously, we need dredging, okay, because the property that we've already had is spongy, is marshy, floods. Have you reached out to New York State yet? Have we reached out for dredging? Is that something that's already been touched upon? Because that seems like an expensive and complicated situation.
So the answer is no, we have not reached out or discussed it with any of the regulators that would be involved in it. But what we have done is we've done the research on what is required for those permits, and also what we may be able to do with the dredged material, so that, the idea of dredging both the channel and the lakefront in the area of the dock is, in our opinion, an approvable proposal on behalf of the town. So there are permitting agencies that are involved with that, as I noted earlier, and we've laid out the framework for those permits.
And cost as well. I mean, permitting
cost.
is one.
Correct.
I'd hate for us to start this and all of a sudden realize, we've got a $5 million dredging nut or something. That's crazy. So I'm hoping that we really do all the research and get all the kind of basic prices before we move forward on this at all and start moving things around. Love the idea of the chairs like that. I'd love to keep as much shade. I think that's another thing. We're in a heat wave right now. That park's not going to get used if it's people are baking out there. So shade trees would be another thing that I'd really want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so next is Terence Mcinerney. Terence, come on up. What's that? I thought you were trying to say Tanner McCracken. No, I know Tanner McCracken. I know. No, you're next. You're next. All right.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Question about the dredging, all right? And I've only lived in this community for a couple of years, but I've heard from various neighbors and locals around that area has been cleaned out before, but it has been, grown back with the way that the lake works. What plans does the town have for the maintenance of this area, plus the maintenance of the parks? Because, I drive around with my wife and we see that other recreational areas that aren't very well maintained. And this is going to be a very focal point for downtown area, and especially for the residents going in and out of Mayapack Point. And, it brings me to another is, the crosswalk area across Sycamore too, because again, Sycamore Road is private property to Mayapack Point. Has the town council reached out to the Mayapack neighborhood and the Mayapack board about the crosswalk from the storefront side across Sycamore into the park area?
We spoke with one of the people that live on the point, and I'm not sure if council's reached out yet, because nothing's finalized, but we have spoken to someone who lives on the point, that's on the committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Terence, when you, yeah, Craig lives out on the point, and there's other gentlemen here that, Mr. Frankel that's here. Right. We've had conversations with them, and they've had conversations with the community. Right.
And we'll probably have a lot more conversations as it goes forward.
So the maintenance of that area that's going to be dredged and revitalized for the bridge placement, I mean, again, what is the town's plan to maintain that area to keep it from, filling back in?
Kenny, we're working with the DEP now. It just came out today.
Right.
So
Yeah, we'll be working with the New York City DEP on that, and the New York State DOT, because a lot of the sediment and the road grit and dirt, if you will, comes off the New York State DOT storm system. The storm management system in downtown Mahopac is very old, and a lot of silt and sediment that fills up in that channel comes right off the roads, unfortunately, and we get a lot of buildup from there. That's why that channel has built up with that amount of silt and sediment, and it's because of that. So we'll be working with the DOT and the DEP to, once that channel's dredged, we're going to have to, during the process, we'll work with them to determine, what the best way is to maintain it and keep that, in its best condition as it is. There'll probably be some aquatic vegetation in there also, as part of this whole project once it's dredged out. But if we're going to invest a lot of money in this project, we're going to maintain the project as well. So we'll make sure that gets done.
We had a Lake Mayapack Park District meeting a couple nights ago, and working with the DEP, we've already started, and I believe they're starting in researching or measuring in the next couple of weeks the catch basins around the lake to put screens and to have better. We've been on, the Lake Mayapack Park District has been on the city and the state's case for years over this. And this park is not going to get built without assurances from them that they're going to take care of all the catch basins around the lake. It's started already. It's in the works. I wish I had the email with me today that came out yesterday or this morning, but it started already. Exactly what you're talking about, the maintenance of the water and the wash off from the roads.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Tanner McCracken.
So,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Rich has an
Mr.
answer.
McInerney, just so you
Tanner,
know,
come on
so everybody's aware, you don't have to come back up. So what Councilman Barilli and Supervisor Schmidt were talking about with the DEP is the East Hudson Watershed Corporation has funding from the DEP. We've been working with the East Hudson Watershed Corporation. They're putting catch basin inserts in various areas. They're looking to expand that program. You know, right now they're hitting up some of the private properties, the library, Marina Drive. They're going to install them. The design is finalized. They're going to start installing it, and they're going to maintain them on an annual basis. That's at least step one. The idea is to move that program to go where all the drainage is entering into the lake, further up the road. Mount Hope Road enters into Lake Mahopac, possibly get those catch basin inserts in there. Again, that's the goal, but that's right now. We're starting off closer to the lake and going to work our way out. So that's one way to stop some of that sediment from getting in there.
The Park District's been working on that for a long time.
Okay, thank you, Terrence. Tanner, you're up.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board. Really appreciate this. I think it's really important that you guys are getting community input on this. This is huge, so thank you so much. So I definitely am very much in favor of the kayak and canoe launch. I think that was really important. I've always, since I've been conscious of it, it always struck me that it was unbelievable that we didn't really have much public access to the lake. You know, it's our lake, and it's always been such a tough thing, and that's why I'm so happy you mentioned at the beginning that you took this property, because most of the property around the lake is private, so I get that. I was actually wondering if it's possible for there to be a wider area for actual boats to get through there, as opposed to just
Motor boats? Motorized boats?
possibly, or, okay, just wondering.
That was another very contentious discussion.
Or rowing, fishing boats that can row.
No.
So why is
again,
that?
Negotiating with the bank and getting a consensus of this board that is a moot issue. It's not coming back. It's not happening.
Okay,
I'll
that's
make
fine.
that perfectly clear. If everybody thinks that's going to happen down the road. That is not happening. And if I'm misspeaking, correct me.
Right. No.
Understood. Why is that?
There are marinas that have the proper launch facilities. You need a launch facility for a boat.
And also the
It's a
parking.
long story.
If you
It's
go
a
and
very
launch.
long story.
Yeah, if you would launch your boat there, then
And the
they
bank
would
is part of
keep
the bank
their
negotiations,
vehicle
so-
with with their trailer in the back, and that would probably take up at least 2 spots. And that's not what the parking is there for. But the main reason was because we have the 2 marinas, they can go through there. This is not, it was discussed at length for various reasons, what Councilman Borelli said, and as well as the parking.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah, it was-
But I put it down.
Tanner, as Councilman Borelli stated, part of the negotiations with the bank to acquire the 4 parcels that we did, part of those discussions were with respect to a motorized boat launch there.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely something that they were against. They didn't want cars or trucks pulling trailers pulling through the bank parking lot. And to be quite honest with you, trucks with trailers or cars with trailers take up a lot of room. They take up a lot of space. And we have 2 family-owned marinas in town that both operators been here for many, many years. And to be honest with you, we didn't want to create a boat launch for the public for motorized boats, because then we'd be taking business away from the 2 marinas, and that's something that we didn't want to do either.
Okay.
And we don't have the staff to staff it, because you would really need somebody there to monitor the ramp, and so it's just not going to be part of what's being considered here.
No, yeah, and I appreciate the reasoning, because I didn't know the reasoning, so it's good that I was here to hear that, but definitely canoe, kayak launch, that's huge. Second thing I wanted to bring up, as well as I saw, at least on the first map, 11 talks about the site lighting. So for me, I've always been a big fan of looking up at the sky and seeing the stars, especially up here. You don't have that down in the city, and it's quite beautiful. So we do get a lot of light pollution from downtown Mahopac, but when you're actually standing, on Chamber Park, you can still get a nice night sky. So with the lighting, I was wondering if you were interested in doing shielded fixtures to you can really light up the whole area, but it actually prevents the light pollution from going to the sky. You can see Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn from Chamber Park and stuff like that. Really interested in keeping that preserved, that night sky, because it's quite beautiful. You can bring a telescope out there. So for those new lightings, I think there are those black stars on the map. If you're looking into that, I like the idea about sustainable energy, but definitely some shielded fixtures to keep the whole area would be lit up, but it would prevent it from going upwards towards the sky. And I guess one last thing. Oh yeah, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Great idea.
We were talking about shielded lighting, not only for that reason, but for the point, for the people that live on the point. They shouldn't have to look at any lights down there.
Awesome. Yeah, no, there's definitely a bunch of benefits to it. So thank you for that. And then the last thing, very small, very minor. Love the chessboard on Chamber Park. The two stools with the chessboard. So I don't know no matter what map you do there, don't know if that's going to be gone or not. But if there's some area with chessboards, like actual chessboards, so you don't have to bring your own set. Love that. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the parks.
All right.
Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tanner.
So just one quick question to just, I guess, piggyback on Tanner's question about the kayak ramp. Will it be possible, if they do widen that ramp, to allow small rowboats that you can handle on your own to get off your vehicle, just like you would do a kayak, or no?
Yeah, Bob, I believe the thought was any non-motorized, if you could carry it in and carry it out. So if it's a small rowboat with just a set of oars,
right?
I see no reason why you couldn't put it in there.
I think that'd be
You can't carry a rowboat in. You're going to define it as a kayak or one or two person type of apparatus, but a standard rowboat cannot be carried in by one person. And the bank was very clear, and we've been very clear, and I don't want to mislead anybody, but it's a kayak launch. It's a rubber, plastic. One person has to be able to launch this kayak.
I think one of the issues with the rowboat too is I think you probably will need a trailer to bring it in, and the trailer will definitely take up another parking spot or extend into the drivable space, the through space. So I mean, I think it would be very difficult. Definitely the kayak. You see them on top of people's cars.
That's
and
fine.
They
I
don't
just
take up.
wanted to make
But
it
again,
clear
we're
that
getting
it's
back
either going to
into
be
a point that this is in the contract with Mahopac National Bank. Kayaks, one or two people, personal paddle boards. They have to be able to carry it and remove their car. It's in the contract. It's not going to be changed.
Thank you.
It can't be changed.
Okay, so next speakers are Charles Melchner Sr. and Charles Melchner Jr. You want to come up together or separate, guys? It's up to you. Senior first? All right. Senior goes first.
So that means you have nothing to say? You have nothing to...
Well, I was going to ask, is he a Mahopac resident with that tan? That's all.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Hi, everybody. Exciting times to live in Putnam County, Town of Carmel, Village of Lake Mahopac. Things that are being done with our lake and our lake area and our downtown district are great. I thank the town board, past and present, for paying so much attention. I thank Insight Engineering for putting their heart and soul in this to make this happen. It's truly a community effort, and I thank all of the town employees for taking their time and being here this evening to do it. Saying that, parking. When this was first proposed a number of years ago to put this forward, it was going to be a parking area with green space surrounding the parking area. The business community, the businessmen, the local business boys that grew up here, had construction companies, came in at the request of a town board member, gave their time to build this area to make it a better area for parking. We need parking in our downtown community, not just for businesses, but for people that want to walk through our community, that want to park their cars, take their bicycles off the top, go bike riding, take their kayaks and canoes off the top of their cars, and go canoeing and kayaking on New York State-owned Lake Mahopac. Parking, parking, parking. We need to think about that continually and about the challenges that will be presented if we try to do a lot more with that space than parking, parking, parking. When the Chamber of Commerce, a number of years ago, I think it's about a quarter of a century ago, decided to work on putting a chamber park in, the community as a whole, business people, banks, local, the whole community, the kids in the schools donated pennies and dimes to build that chamber park. The whole community got in back of it. It was ran by the chamber to build it. It was a public-private partnership, and we built that community park. And I would say it's a great success. People picnic there. They bring their children there to use the swings. They sit by the fountain. They sit by the edge of the water, and it's one of the great successes. I'm sure Jim Gilchrist will tell you that it's one of our best-used facilities and wonderfully kept facility in the town of Carmel. Jim, and I thank your group of guys for doing such a great job over there. So, parking. I look at 82 spots. 18 of them go to the Mahopac Bank, Tompkins Bank, excuse me. Rightfully so. They need that parking. We're putting parallel parking finally in downtown. How many spots do we lose there? 6, 7, 8? I don't really know. But we're going to lose about 8 or 9 spots.
18.
18 spots we're losing? Mm-hmm. So let's take the 82 spots. Let's take the 18 spots out from Mahopac Bank. Let's take the 18 spots we're going to lose for parking in downtown. What are we going to net parking, parking, parking in this new area that we bought to park vehicles in so people could use the lake, the bike trails, and whatever they might want to use it for?
Just under 50.
So as I drive, I've only been back in town for a short period of time. My wife and I, Lillian, we get to travel a bit at this stage of our lives. We're very, very lucky in life. Right now, without it being a designated parking area, as Susie said before, it's not finished yet. There are 30, 40 cars there already on a given Saturday or Sunday. We need to take a look at this for what it was originally thought for, as a parking area for our downtown district. We need it. The town knew we needed it, and we're making it into something potentially we don't have to have. Nice to have, but as somebody pointed out, it's not a really big piece of property, and we need to make use of it for what it's supposed to be used for. When I look at some of the charts now that Insight has done, I think they're all very, very nice. But I look at our Chamber Park, and I don't see a lot of picnic areas put in there. They're designated for other things. And the picnic area has been put into the new property that we bought. Maybe we can move that back into the Chamber Park for picnic areas. We need to think about this. Somebody brought up how expensive dredging is. And they're exactly right. Dredging is a challenge, it's an expensive, and more than anything else, it's a maintenance issue. Because the lake seeks its own level. So if we have Lake Mahopac here and you dig a hole there, that lake fills up that hole. Within a year, a 20-foot hole deep, 10-foot wide, 2 years, Charles, the lake will fill that hole in. So it's a constant job to take care of it. Somebody brought up a very, very good idea about moving the launch to the creek area, to the inlet area. What a great idea. That would ease people putting their kayaks and canoes in the water. It would, if there is a wavy day with wind coming in from whatever air, from the north coming into that cove, it would take a lot of the challenges from that. If we're talking about doing any kind of drainage work, dredging work, that's where we should think about doing it and putting our launching area in there for the canoes and kayaks, a nice wide area. Storm drains, redoing them dramatically. As our supervisor said earlier, that little channel there, where you can, a lot of us can remember, I'm sure Mike Simone remembers really well, you used to be able to pull a boat way down in there next to Kellogg to Bud's place, right? Next to Tomcat, thank you. Next to Tomcat Marine. You used to be able to pull a boat down in there. And it's because the state of New York has not maintained that catch basin We have to blame it on them. They said they didn't have the funds, and it's continually filled in, much to the dismay of a lot of us. On to Cherry Lane. I think it's great that we make it one way. A lot of people probably don't recognize, but the width of the road where it is now is not truly the width of the road. The people that own property along the side of it comes further out into the road. It's only, I think, 25 feet wide, the actual width of the road. Making it one way is a great idea. I believe we have to go a step further and make the entrance to the road from Route 6 only going westbound, so we don't have traffic jams trying to funnel in to that tiny little road there. I think we need to take a look at that. Launching area, kayaks, solar panels, shaded lights, great meeting. Thank you very, very much for all your time, everybody.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie, if I could just piggyback on what you said. I want to make it very clear to everybody that this person, one of the 5 people up here, is not happy with the parking layout in this. Charlie hit it on the button. This was originally to revitalize downtown Mahopac with the kicker of having a park to connect to the other park over a bridge. Everything we're proposing for it is great, and it can be done. But it could very easily add another 20 spots in here, which some original drawings have had. This park has to have a minimum of 100 parking spaces in it, not 80. So however it has to be done, that's what should be done. And I want that out there publicly right now on this, as if I was speaking on that thing.
Yeah, we need that. We need parking spaces, that's for sure. Whether you like it or not, downtown needs parking. And for all those local businesses contribute taxes and bring stuff into the community. Everybody says they don't want any more nail salons or pizza places. What else is going to come down if you can't park your car there and people can't get to your business? So I've lived here my whole life, Charlie Melchner Jr., and I've seen some changes as well. And I think this can only be a good thing, but I agree. It was probably one of the notes he stole was the one about parking. A couple of quick things that I saw, so we're not here all night. I love the idea of the kayak launch moving. I think it's brilliant. I think it's easy to do. I think it's safer and better for everybody. While we're talking about a kayak launch, I think right now we afford access to the fire, EMS, police, anybody who wants to our marina 24/7. I think that should be built into the idea that there is, not that we won't stop doing it at our marina, but we'd like to have it. I think it would be smart that the fire department could get in there in an emergency situation and not have to worry, that they know they get in. So whatever we build should be accessible for them to get their inflatables or a small trailer in there. They don't have anything too big, but I think it's a big safety thing. Has anybody thought about any kind of a wash station for these kayaks and canoes, or making sure that they're dry? We do have a slight problem with zebra mussels that's escalated through the years on the lake, and it's from outside water being contaminated into our water. Something to keep an eye on. We limit day launching to local residents, and we don't do regular day launching all the time just because of some constrictions at the marina, but it is something to pay attention to. I heard talk of monitoring who was coming in and out. I don't know about all that, how that would happen. I can remember a time where the town tried to put stickers on boats if you lived in the town or out of the town. I'm not sure who would police that or monitor that or check that, nor do I mind either way. It bears nothing on our business or our lives. Just, I think it's something to think about if we're going to try to impose that on people. And then fishing in the pier, I think it's great. I don't know if you're planning on people being able to swim from there. Inevitably, you're going to have that. Is there going to be someone that's going to enforce that? How many people are going to be allowed to fish from the dock? If you go to causeways everywhere, there's limits and signs on stuff. Little things that I think will make a difference that we should pay attention to. And again, whether we want to hear it or not, parking is definitely something that everybody needs to pay attention to, and it will make downtown Mahopac much, much better in flowing, moving, and as far as Cherry Lane and everything, I agree 100%. Changing the directions, the flow of it, not my specialty on which way or how it should go, but I believe something could happen and make quite a bit of changes. And parking again. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate all the efforts. Have a good night.
Okay, next is Marie Frankel.
Hello, hi. I wanted to thank everyone for this opportunity and for everything that they're doing to make this park happen. So I went through a lot of the drawings. I sort of like the first drawing the best, but one of the things I thought of is there's a kayak launch. It's showing two kayak launches, one in the left by Chamber Park and the other one, in version 2, I think. So I think that's sort of a difficult space to be having a kayak launch. That's that number 16 or something. So they have it also by the Chamber Park, which I think that's ridiculous. It's, you know, not a good idea. I don't know how you'll get the boats there, and then.
Yeah, I see that.
Top on the left.
Right
Yeah.
here, one here and one here.
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible. Plus, that
Yeah.
property is very close to private
true.
property too, and you're going to have
That's
people
true.
flopping all in people's
Yeah.
lots. I just think it's just not a great idea. So it also talks about a boat tied up at the boat dock. What's the intent? Who has access and things like that?
I didn't think we were going to allow any.
I don't know. It says number 15. It's boat
Boat
tie-up
tie-up
dock for
dock.
town rec department.
Yeah,
So what is that?
But we spoke about it, that we were not going to have anybody that's allowed to have boats to tie up there. Unless
Okay.
it's an emergency vehicle, but no one, from what I understood from a bunch of the meetings, again, this is all just
No, it's just
out
it's there, so, you know.
That people can just come and park and try to get more people on their boats to go out. I don't think that was the intent of what was here, but we will certainly note it.
Okay. It also talks about sailboats, so I know we're talking about like 1 or 2 person boats. I mean, maybe a sunfish, I don't know, but that's sort of more for than one person.
Yeah.
So I know they were talking, someone made a suggestion about bringing like more of a ramp down by the water and stuff, but if it's really only supposed to be a carry-in boat, it doesn't seem to make any sense. We already have a landing area that we call there, so I'm not sure it's really necessary. In terms of the bathrooms and stuff like that, I want to make sure they're locked or something, because we do have homeless people sometimes I've seen in the park and stuff like that, so I think that's
Yes, they will be
an
locked.
issue.
They will be locked in the evening, Marie,
Okay.
and open up back in the morning. Recreation Department will take care of that.
The fountains that are in the channel, are they aeration or are they just
They are.
decoration?
Aeration.
Aeration.
They're aeration, okay. Oh, one of them eliminates the drive through the bank, which I think is ridiculous, which we've seen during COVID, is people like the drive-through, they use the drive-through and they couldn't go into the bank, so I don't think that's a good idea. Playground
Yeah.
location, I know someone mentioned that it would be they didn't like the cost to move it, but I think it's much better further away from the road because it is a private property and we do get a lot of people parking and stuff there using it, so I think it's a better idea. I'm not sure we need 2 bridges. I mean, it's not that big a place. You know, if we're talking about cost containment, I think that's, you know, some way you can save money. Also, in terms of grants, like, is there someone's going to be investigating grants for these type of things? Because I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, opportunity for that. You just need someone to do it. I know we talked about the dredging. As someone mentioned, I mean, you move the stuff, it comes back. So I don't, and then you've got some private properties that are very close there, so I don't know how that's going to impact. You're going to dredge around it, you're going to push it to their property, or you're going to dredge their property too, because if you don't, it's right there. So I don't know how that's going to happen. Right, but still, if it's, it's removed, then you've got those other, like right at the end of Chamber Park, you've basically got someone's property there. So what are you're gonna do? If you don't dredge that area, it's gonna be in 5 minutes, it's gonna be back. So, and also maintaining the property, like whatever there was last week, there was garbage all over the park. I guess we had that party on Thursday, and I don't know if it, there was like a big bag, and then the garbage blew, it was all over. So we really need to make sure that you're going to have a lot more people using this place. You have to keep it up, and because otherwise, the regular, when you come walking around there and you see there's just garbage everywhere, which isn't nice. They were all filled, but the garbage was overflowed because there was a party, I guess, Thursday night, and I don't know when it got picked up. Maybe it missed the pickup or something, but there's trash blowing all over. So that's not really good. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, what's the combined refuge enclosure? One of them has a combined refuge enclosure.
It's to the bank, for Mayapack National Bank, or Compton's Bank, and the Parks and Recreation. We're going to combine enclosure, so the containers.
Trash.
The trash containers are going to be in an enclosed area. So we're combining it rather than having two separate ones.
Oh, okay.
Right, so we're going to be combining that area.
Okay. And then one of them, they don't relocate the fountain. They don't use the fountain at all, so I don't know people's attachments to it.
It does call for the fountain to be removed, I believe.
Yeah, the second,
There is one that's
two of them relocate, one of them doesn't.
One of them has to be removed.
Yeah.
Everyone was
Yeah.
more leaning to
So-
having it removed. It was originally designed for memorials or donations. There's only a half a dozen maybe on the fountain, and they're going to be relocated
Okay.
somewhere around that building. They're not going to
Okay.
be discarded.
And then, one of the things that someone mentioned, about sponsoring the chairs and stuff like that, and then how the Chamber Park was built with pennies from local, maybe there's some kind of way that the community can donate by, donating eating set or tables or something like that, and that would help defray some of the costs.
Yeah, we're gonna look
And,
at all that kind of
it's nice
sponsorship.
to, or even like bricks. I don't know if you've been to places where they donate bricks.
Yeah.
And,
Disney.
Excuse me?
Disney World.
Yeah.
All there's bricks
Oh,
up.
okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't been there in a while, my kids are big, but,
And even some other places have
yeah,
names on the bricks.
you donated, I think they actually have it at the church area,
Yeah, right.
in commemoration. But, that would be a nice thing to do, and I think people were receptive to that. People love the area, and they want it to be beautiful. And then this is probably unrelated, but we should do something with those stores that are right there right across from Chamber Park. I don't know how we deal with that, but I guess that's part of the master plan. But they're really, terrible and run down, so we should find some way that maybe there's some money or something through grants to revitalize with all this money that you're going to get from COVID. Maybe there's some way that we could, if the landlords just don't want to do it, but, it's an eyesore for the people that live here, so maybe we can do something, so.
Yeah, I actually, Maria, I spoke to that landlord of the building you're referring to.
Yeah,
And
green mess.
they're putting new windows in it, and they're going to be residing it.
Okay.
So I
That's
know
good.
which
That's
one
a-
you're referring to.
Yeah, no, I know. It's
And
been
the
a-
plan is they're doing that within the next couple of weeks, I'm told.
Okay.
There are some buildings in the middle of downtown that are in play
Yay.
in terms of renovations or resales and things like
Yep.
that. And for the public to know, I've said this before, but it's very important because what you said about community involvement. Mayapack National Bank went above and beyond in our negotiations. They're putting a $50,000 kitty in for the construction of the rock walls on their property and around the drive-through. All that rock is going to be used on that site with rock walls, and it's all going to be used. The Mayapack National Bank is putting in $50,000.
Yes, the
It is
drive-through is staying.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
think
getting
that's
rid of any
important,
of them.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, on all three plans,
As
we
we've
have
seen,
it.
no, one of them, it's come off. If you,
No, it's on, it's just relocated. It's located, they're all relocated inside here.
Yeah.
It's kind of difficult to see it, but I don't think
The existing
Jeff took it
drive-through
out.
roadway is going to be
Oh, they
closed
put a new
off.
one?
Yeah,
There'll be a sidewalk
the
across
drive-through
it,
that's there now. It's
and
just
everything's going to be
redirected.
accessed through the traffic
Well, we
light
need
through
it
the parking
because
lot.
it's, especially, you saw what
Oh,
happened
yeah.
these days. We don't want to not
I know.
have a drive-through. I live with it.
Yep,
So, okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Marie, thank you. Okay, next is Lynn Burkett. Lynn? Okay. You're taking her spot? Taking her time?
She's a little bashful.
Okay.
But she has a lot of great ideas.
All right.
Louisiana, first I want to just thank and congratulate the supervisor and the council. Great plan, very, very exciting. I would take my pick of any one of those. I thought there were some really, really great comments here. I agree with the gentleman about the parking, but my question is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we draw more people in where we need more parking, or do we provide parking first and then draw people in? Because the next question is, what are they coming for? Have you thought about some type of business inventory and analyzing your commercial mix, maybe recruiting and attracting certain types of businesses that you want here that are going to have a synergetic effect on bringing more of the kind of consumers and pedestrians that you want in here? I like the idea of the bicycles, but again, parking, I agree, is a really, really big issue. Doesn't necessarily have to be on site. You could have a shuttle or some other service close by, maybe some connection with Metro North, some type of package off the station, bringing people up to our area when you're running some type of events. And again, thinking about what kind of business you want here. Would be great to make it a pedestrian mall. I know it's closing off parking, but maybe not every day, maybe on the weekends or something like that, that you could work out. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, Arthur Avenue. I was just there the other day. They're shutting it down on weekends as a pedestrian mall, and it's really, really nice.
It's actually, I don't mean to interrupt, the chamber does that when they have their chamber fairs, and
Right.
they close that off, and it's really neat, where
Okay.
everybody just goes.
Because you can get street
Yeah.
vendors, other amenities. Otherwise, I'm really excited over this. I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just to follow up, the street fair this year is October 3rd. It's ready, October 3rd.
October 3rd?
3rd?
3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Larry Zacks. Larry?
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the board for doing so much work on this project, and 90% of the ideas put forward have been incredibly valuable. This is a very important piece of property on the water. We've been working on the master plan now for close to 4 years. This parking area and park is a critical function of downtown. We do need a lot more parking, and there are other alternative areas. But before I get into that, what was presented here is a wonderful idea to make the park useful. This is a beautiful waterfront. This also is an extremely wet area. The engineer might be able to answer, how feasible is this to build in a muck? Are we going to be sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars to revitalize this area? Will this muck hold it, or is it what sent to them?
That's a drawing of somewhere else. It's not, that's not necessarily, that drawing was to show the chairs.
Yeah, the chairs and the
Okay?
chairs.
We're not building a concrete seawall.
Oh, we're not building a concrete seawall. All right, that's out of there.
All right? It's
good.
all up in the air. It's still a concept. It might be a natural, what's there now. It might be a boardwalk over it. It might be, it's up for the experts to tell
Perfect.
us what is feasible.
Keeping it natural would be great because we do not want the waves
We're
reverberating
leaning more
around the
towards
lake.
keeping everything as
Natural.
natural as possible.
The boardwalk idea is phenomenal. The seating is beautiful. Studying this area, we do need this parking. The idea is to keep the parking in the front, maximizing the lake view, maximizing the area where the canal is. Putting more parking in the front of the existing park may be a better idea, and keeping more green space against the canal. The other things I'd like to add to this is, excuse me for the glasses, there is another alternative parking area that was designed when Canopus Island was subdivided into residential building lots. Next to Clark Place, entering Senior Avenue, there is approximately 3/4 of an acre that is designated for Canopus Island residents to park. Canopus Island is now owned half by the county. That property should be converted to parking and be another parking area so that you have 2 more parking areas added to the town. We call it Paritsky's building. As you turn into Clark Place, make a right on Senior Avenue, the big contemporary structure, the next building lot. That was originally designated as a parking spot for the residents of Canopus Island. We had looked into this. We've been at this for 4 years.
Is that county-owned?
The county has taken back half of Canopus Island for taxes, so they own half of it. Diana Flowers owns a few lots, so there really aren't that many owners, and I'm sure something could be worked out where they may even get a few spaces. That's just one idea, and that would certainly address the parking needs of our town. Another idea is, where could a parking structure be put? Could it be put in the back of town where there's already, I guess, where that oil tank was taken down, and other areas in the back? We've got a parking area.
It's private property, Larry.
It's private property. It may have to be purchased or whatever. We've got the other parking lot off of Mount Hope Road. You know, is that an area where you could do elevated parking? We're taking a 50-year look at this. So when you're doing a master plan and we're taking a really big look at this, this is not a year, a 5-year, a 10-year, it's a 50-year plan. But we need the parking now, not later.
I'm sorry, Larry, are you asking for a parking structure, a multi-level
I'm just
parking
mentioning
structure?
it. I'm just
Because,
mentioning.
you know, one of the things I noticed over the years is that parking lot on Mount Hope Road is severely underused. Severely underused. I use it, I call it the Joe Smith parking lot, because when I have to go to a wake, I park there. And when people say, oh, where we're going to meet for the funeral, for the wake, let's meet there. I mean, if you go on Saturday and Sunday, there are cars that park there, but it's very, very underutilized. With regard to, you know, somebody had mentioned about bicycling. I mean, you're not going to bicycle necessarily through town. You're going to bicycle on the bike path, and the parking lot is designated for that bike path. I don't necessarily know if people want to see a parking structure somewhere in town. That I'm not sure about. I have a little bit mixed feelings about a parking structure, garage type thing.
I don't think you're talking about a multi-level
I'm talking
structure.
about that.
You're talking
That's
about certain
something
areas,
25,
parking
30
spot-
years down the
parking
road.
lots.
The reason the parking
spread
is
it out.
needed is this is a resort community. 9 months of the year, it's irrelevant. But come July and August, if we do have the sidewalk that is proposed, if we have cafes and dining, you go there. We went there one day, and we got the last parking spot in town to go to a restaurant.
You're going to need it.
And I said, wow, it's only 7 o'clock. What happens to people who come later? They're going to drive in, and they're going to drive out. And that's what we're facing 2 years ago. What are we going to face now? We all know about the new restaurant. We all know about the hit and run. Let's wise up and address parking now. Let's address sidewalks now. Let's look as we do a master plan, not 5 years, not 10 years, 50 years down the road, because that's when it's cheaper to buy property. That's when it's cheaper to get easements. Those are some of the basic points I wanted to bring out. As far as this particular park, moving this building to the side, not blocking your views, is critical. Leaving places for a statue or artwork. Making sure this is built above the high water line so that when we have those 100-year floods, they're not every 100 years. We all know that, who own property. They happen frequently. We want trees in the park, but we have the mixed blessing of how do you not block the view from the road. This is to be an aesthetic park. We want to maximize the waterfront, minimize the parking. And that's really all I have to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Well, the two good questions. When would this park actually start?
A
lot of unknowns.
Permits,
There's a lot of
my favorite.
There's a lot of permits that are outside. You know, the town has to apply, as I think was mentioned earlier about the Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, DEC, all these entities.
Probably
Once you're building at or near the lakefront, all those come into play.
You're a year or two away
What is
from
the-
actual construction.
Year or two.
And that's why Jimmy did the great job of dressing up what we have there so it looks presentable.
And usable. Thank you. A lot of people enjoy it, and the parking is great, and it's feasible. What is the cost of building this park? I've heard numbers of $2 million. I've heard numbers of $5 million.
Yeah, Larry, I don't think, we don't know the actual cost because we don't know what's going to be there yet. That's why we're having this. I think, you know, we've heard a lot from people, if we're thinking about the dredging, if we're thinking about all of this, bring it with the cost. So when we go to finalize the park, we can say one bridge or two bridge, you know, what is the amount? So it's almost like when you go to a restaurant, like what is each one of these aspects going to cost? And let's see what we can afford to put in here and make a beautiful park. So
Perfect.
I don't know a number right now.
2 years.
And-
Well, thank you very much.
All right, Larry, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, great comments, Larry. Thanks. Okay, so next up is Carl Albano. Carl?
Thank you. I think it's a great concept, but I'm from the Hamlet of Carmel, and I have a business right at the edge of town, so I could relate to this in a couple different ways, and I can give you some opinions of some of the people in the Hamlet of Carmel. You know, when you look at that whole area, 6N, Route 6, that whole loop there, parking is a major problem. But yet in the past, businesses have gotten variances for parking. The whole area seems to have not been planned correctly from years and years ago, not the current planning board. Part of this whole revitalization, one of the big things I think you should be looking at is the architecture, some kind of architectural plan. In the past, I've written letters that I didn't agree with the Architectural Review Board because they had no true concept, no picture of what our town should look like. And this is something I think we have to really figure out now. You know, we go through different areas like Eastchester or Katona, and you see there was a plan and a concept. Everything has some kind of uniformity. As part of that, I think when businesses apply to do renovations, perhaps you should give them some kind of incentive to move in that direction where you have, again, uniformity and some real plan. As far as parking, it's a major issue. But I do think green space is really key to this site, being on the lake. And as part of that, I would just suggest some kind of pervious pavement, and actually not even pavement, the cement products they have where you can grow grass. You could have it look like a lawn and yet be suitable to park cars on it. And you could probably eliminate half of what you see that's gray there, still have the beauty, but yet probably gain another 10, 20 spaces and achieve both things at the same time. And again, that wouldn't really be an issue in the winter because you probably wouldn't have the density of parking there that's possible. So the bottom line is, from what I've heard from people, is cost is a really serious consideration. Perhaps 2 bridges isn't necessary. Perhaps moving the fountain is not necessary. Really try to key in on that because I think you can achieve the beauty, get the parking that you need, and yet still not spend a lot of money. So great concept. I think it's going to be fantastic when it's done. Good luck with it.
And Carl, one of the reasons why we brought these 3 different plans is for, number one, people to get an idea and to give us feedback onto which one or what they find acceptable, what is suggested on. But of course, a lot of it is going to depend upon cost. I mean, that's not out of our thought processes. You know, we're just going to spend whatever. Everything comes with a cost. Everything comes with a price that, you know, we all have to pay. So these are all nice, great ideas. These are all suggested ideas and plans for it. But somewhere is going to be the cost factor, and then there's going to be, well, do we do this or do we do that, and what's the cost of everything? So, but that's as we draw, you know, that's as we move along. But right now, these are just conceptual ideas and drawings that we wanted to bring to the public. To at least this is the framework.
No, this is good. This is a good start. My opinion is, if you look at that picture there, less of the gray space, but you can still have the parking. You could achieve both. It can be done, and that's a big direction. And with the DEP and everything, they really prefer the pervious as compared to regular pavement in every direction. So that it works for so many different reasons.
One of the thoughts with the parking is, I understand that there's 18 spots for the bank, but on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, there's no one at the bank, so those spots are freed up as well.
That'd be great. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well,
Until 12 o'clock.
On the cost of the park, there's many different parts of this park. Everything doesn't have to be built because it's connected. There are numerous different parts, so there's going to be many different prices. And that's when we fit it into a budget and say, okay, it could be done. I mean, the building doesn't necessarily have to go with, you know, there's just so many different things. There's the waterfront, there's the walk, there's the optional parking lot, there's moving the playground, there's the bridge. 2 bridges were drawn just for aesthetics to show people what could be done. Don't think we're building 2 bridges or 3 bridges. If anybody goes down to down Route 6 into Shrub Oak, on the town park over there, you'll see the type of bridge that we looked at. What park is that, Ken?
It's, Rob and I went down there. Remember the name of it?
It's the one I told you about.
Yeah, we went and looked at it, yeah. It's a lake. Yorktown Park?
It's Yorktown Park.
Yeah.
It's a town park, and you'll go there. They have two bridges there, one long one, one short one. These pictures are just pictures. No one's going to go out and build everything that's here. It's just for you to think about, get back to us on our second public hearing, and then we give it to that guy in the corner. He goes, gets the permits. We find out then what it's going to cost.
Right.
This is not going to happen this year or next year. This is a long-term process.
Okay, next speaker is Marcia Waldman.
Hi, so many, Marcia Waldman, Mayapack. So many good ideas have been put forth, so I'll try and keep it brief. First of all, I would like to echo Mr. Albano regarding the serious use of an architectural review board to give some shape and character to our town instead of the eclectic look that we currently have. I love the idea of kayaking. My one attempt to kayak in the lake was disastrous. I do have concerns about safety issues with the motor vehicles interacting with the unmotorized vehicles, and I do have concerns about cross-contamination of boats coming in and out of different lakes, that we have invasive species, both plant and animal, that can be carried around. I think a washing station would probably be a good idea. And I also have some concern that the area be monitored appropriately so that people are handling their boats in a proper fashion when you've got motorized and non-motorized boats together. I applaud all the environmental suggestions. I would like to add to that electronic vehicle charging stations.
There will be one there.
And many of them, because that's where we're going. I would also like to remark on the designs. I think that both alternative 1 and 3 take advantage of what's become known as the emerald necklace approach, where the green spaces will, along the canal, come all the way forward and pull through, so that the experience of the viewer, the aesthetic experience from Route 6N will be, you'll see more green, you'll be pulled, your eye will be pulled out to the larger green space and out to the lake, rather than in design number 2, where you sort of stall on the gray parking area. I also applaud the fact that you've included bathroom facilities, because without them, that would be impractical for many people to participate in activities in the area. But I do suggest that you take a lesson from Cold Spring, which has had, they've been flooded by New Yorkers who have come up on the train and to go hiking up out of there. The bathroom facilities and the trash management facilities have become a problem down at the train station end of town. So it's like, let's not make that same mistake. Thank you for making this a very public and engaging conversation so that the whole community can participate in it. This is what I call open government.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Okay, the next name, I'm sorry, I just can't make it out. The email address is EMAR.
Oh, yeah, they signed it.
That's okay.
So my name is Eve Markowitz, and I also would like to thank you for having this meeting and for listening to everyone. If this works out the way it appears to be planned, there are going to be a lot more kayaks on the lake, and a lot more canoes on the lake. And I'm a kayaker, so I think that's great. But we already have a problem with motorboats and kayaks interacting, and we already have a problem with the rules and regulations not being enforced. So as we're sitting here and we're talking about registration stickers and things like that, and Marie Frankel made a very good point about the trash pickup, I think it's important that early on the annual budget be adjusted to get more enforcement out there in the park, on the lake. I've been told by the Carmel Police that there's a significant conflict between Carmel and the state as to who is responsible for policing the lake, who gets the funding for it. Things like the decibel meters, that there's no funding for that, that I was told 2 years ago. It seemed improbable to me, but that people are, that the police are out. I was told that the police are out on the lake only on a volunteer basis for overtime, that it's not regularly scheduled. I mean, this is what I was told by the police in this building. So whatever it is, this is, to my mind, bringing to a head the issues that we really have with the motorboats and the jet skis on the lake and the kayaks and the canoes and the paddle boards, and you're bringing more people in. It's just a disaster waiting to happen.
Do you want me to address a couple of things? So we had a meeting the other evening. Councilman Borelli mentioned the Lake Park District Committee meeting, and we had our police chief as well as sergeant who's in charge of the lake. And there is no issue with regard to conflict between the state and the town. It's the town who's going to be patrolling the lake, period, end of story. There's no one else. The enforcement, and Councilman Borelli, I think, was impressed. The chief,
the district into it too.
and the Lake Park District had brought a lot of concerns with regard to the enforcement of the lake, and the police chief, and they provided us with it's only been less than about 3 weeks or so that they've been out there patrolling, but the increases in citations, not only are they issuing citations, they're also issuing warning, a warning, do you have a copy of it?
No.
A warning piece of paper to everyone, basically saying, we're going to give you a warning, this is what you violated, let's not have this happen again. So they've been doing a very good job with it. One of the issues right now is that there had been an issue, and I know Kenny's going to address this in a second, with regard to the boat, with regard to the Sheriff's Department having a boat on Lake Mayapack. Now, because of that issue, those boats are owned by the state of New York. Those boats, if they weren't to be used, need to go back to the state. So they were going to be trailed back up to Albany to give into another municipality who was on a waiting list for a boat. So I think we've taken care of that, and I'm going to let Kenny speak on that issue. We're working on that, but we do have the police boat. We do have a lot more enforcement this year on the lake from the Carmel PD, and I believe that they've been doing a very good job because they provided us with some stats Monday night about it, and they're taking a really harder stance on the enforcement on the lake for safety purposes. There is by the way, we do have the decibel reader. It's $100. I don't know why anybody thought it was a bit.
All I can do is tell you what I've been
No, I agree. And I just wanted to give you the information that we were provided.
I think we're really getting off track here.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your feet. We want to get back to why we're here, but your points are well taken, ma'am, and I appreciate it.
The point, I think, I just want to, just because maybe I wasn't clear enough, if you're doing this to bring business in, and you're doing this to make Lake Mayapack a destination spot, it is going to go up poof if you have a jet ski bashing into a kayaker, okay? And the way everyone is running around, I mean, from my perspective, it sounded as if you were saying there's one boat on the lake. The annual budget for lake enforcements and police vehicles should be increased. It should be part of the overall plan, along with people to patrol to pick up the trash.
We've been working on
Probably
that.
you're going to need extra traffic patrol. It's not just.
To get back to the police patrol, it's very important that everybody understands that we've been working on this very hard for the last year. We're looking at new police boat now. We're looking at a secondary police boat. We're looking to make the lake a sector where from May to September, there is constant police on the lake. It would become a rotating sector. This is something we've been working on for 6 months to a year, very, very hard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, next speaker is, it looks like Esposito. Am I right with that? Okay, Mr. Esposito. How are you? Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm a kayaker. I'm 73. I've been kayaking for 61 years. I'm an active kayaker. I look out here, I see a lot of people that I kayak with. Kayaks aren't toys. If you're going to have a municipal launch, which is a great idea, that's how I met Tony, you have to have oversight. You have to have somebody there to check that the boats going in are actually allowed to be there. When I was a kid, every park had a parkie. I don't know what their official designation was, but we always called him the parkie. And he had authority over the park. The town has kayaks now. If you don't have flotation in a kayak, and these are very inexpensive kayaks, if you tip, they go down like a stone. Sitting on your PFD, that's a no-no. It doesn't do you any good when you're upside down. The parkie can tell them, if you're going to launch this boat here, you must have flotation in it. If the town is going to provide it, or if they have to provide it themselves, they must wear their PFDs. I've pulled 2 of those little puddle ducks out of the lake, and they float about 10 inches under the water. So if somebody's water skiing and they find one of them, they're in big trouble. Glenn can tell you all about that.
What is a, I'm sorry, what's a puddle duck? Is that a little
Little 8-foot kayak
Oh, okay.
with no flotation from Kmart.
Right.
And about dredging the channel, a few years ago, one of my neighbors fell off a dock and went in up to here. And another neighbor had to pull him out. Luckily, it was a big muscular guy, contractor. Just yanked him out. And I was asked to find out what this thing was. And I took samples, and I sent them off to Professor Bruce Kedrick. And it's a black biosludge. It's an anaerobic bacteria waste. And there's a lot of easy ways to get rid of it, but I think you're going to find the channel is worse than where I took the samples from, because I had a 220 centimeter kayak paddle, and I went all the way down and my arm up to my shoulder, and I didn't touch bottom. It's very, very dangerous. Somebody brought up the point about people are going to jump in. People do jump in, and if you go in head first, it's going to be a major lawsuit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Alana Sweeney.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for doing this. This is terrific. I really like number 2. You know, having lived here as long as I have, I remember the old timers talking about how they built where Four Brothers is and off-track betting, which was the original site for Town Hall, right? So it's really nice that you're taking the advantage to now reopen the lake to people and to being able to see the lake. I have a couple of questions. One of them is in terms of the rec center offices. Is that going to be just storage and bathrooms, or are those going to be big offices? Because we've got offices at Sycamore.
No.
And I'm wondering if we can keep that scaled down.
It's going to be bathrooms, storage, and it was proposed to be a very small office for Nina, the assistant rec director. When they have if they have programs that they're going to be running out of there, she'd be using the office for that. But it's
Okay.
very small. It's not going to be a large office.
And also to oversee what the previous gentleman said about launching.
Launching, yeah.
Yeah, that was
This is all gonna go through
interesting.
the Parks Department.
I also wondered, and I've learned an awful lot about kayaks tonight, so thank you, everyone. On East Lake, the school property, the town has been doing, and I've done it there, the kayak launches with the recreation department. Will they continue to do that, or will they stop using that property and just do the town park?
And that could also change on a yearly basis because we are actively negotiating with the school board.
Perfect. So just so people, because Nina, I'm sorry, they couldn't hear you out there. Nina said, yes, they are going to be keeping the programs running at the school property as of now.
People mentioned bicycles, and I really like that, especially if we're able to really redevelop that part of the town. My concern is when people come off of the bike path, where are they going to cross and get down there? It's something that I think needs to be part of the consideration because there are no bike lanes there, and crossing is kind of, what's the word I want? Dangerous. So it's just something that you should keep as part of the consideration if you're looking at the bicycles there.
I think there was a grant that we applied for that connects the bicycle trail into a park. I'm not sure how where we're at with that grant right now, but we did apply for a grant for that.
I just want to make sure that it's safe and safe for people crossing there. And then my only other thought is, well, two other thoughts. One of them is as you're walking from the lot on this spot, if you're going to the far end down to Cherry Street, it gets very, very icy in the winter. And it's hard to think of it now when it's so nice and warm, but the wind blows, it gets very cold. What do you think the impact is going to be on the south side Kobu lot with that, or do you think that there will be no impact?
What we're doing downtown? There shouldn't be any impact.
Shouldn't be any, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any additional impact in the winter. The property owners are required to maintain their section of the sidewalk that would be on the north side of 6N.
Yeah, it should
So
just-
walking from the park, from the municipal parking lot to, let's say, over by Kobu, it shouldn't be a problem, shouldn't be an issue, as long as the sidewalks are maintained.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, and I get my nails done down there, so, what I'm thinking is, as you're walking down there and the wind's blowing and it's cold and whatever, are people going to not go to the businesses, or are they going to use that other lot? It's just for a thought.
And the sidewalks, Alana, are going to be wider in that area there.
It's going to be more accessible for pedestrians and better for pedestrians. So it's going to help it.
Okay. And then just the other, it's just a comment. I know it's part of the larger plan, but I really think we need to be looking at this in total with that whole 6N, because right now there are all of those apartments above, which the rumor is are very overcrowded, and the businesses are catering to the people who are in the apartments. So I don't know what the plan is, if we're planning on doing anything about that. I would love to see lots of really nice little restaurants and boutiques and whatever there. It would be fantastic, and I think it would be a real draw to our town. But I just want to put that on the table. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alana. Okay, and the final speaker that signed up early is Andreas Cubier.
I think so.
How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank all of you for the tremendous amount of hard work that you've done over the last years, making this a concept, an idea. A lot of stuff has been said. I'm not going to repeat most of it. I think there's a lot of great ideas. I will repeat two things. I think the whole idea of why we're here is for parking. I think that is the number one reason why we're here. I think the parking idea got some whistles and bells, and people got excited about the lake and having access to the lake. I personally don't live on the water, but I do spend time on the water. I have been in the cove. I have been in the water in the cove. There is maybe 3 or 4 feet of water, and then there's 7 or 8 feet of sludge. I have personally removed the sludge, and you watch it fill right back in. So we can spend lots of time and energy and have 10 more meetings like this, but until the sludge issue has a financial number, because we can spend a lot of time with Insight, and they're a great company. We can spend a lot of money on doing all this back and forth research, and if we come up with it's a $3 million project to dredge 150 feet out from there to the bar, out to halfway across the point to dredge that out, and it's a $500,000 a year maintenance fee to dredge that, we're spending a lot of time here talking about what we should be doing is talking about parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, is there, so that concludes those who signed up. Charlie?
Can I just bring one?
Sure, yeah.
I'm very glad, Charlie Melchner, I'm very glad that people are bringing up about the dredging, because the dredging is a difficult issue. I think that this is a wonderful spot for the kayak launching, and I believe that the canoe and kayaking, when we look at that, we should get some of these folks here that represented themselves so well tonight to come to the location and show them the different areas to do it. The more that I think about it sitting here, the folks that brought up about putting the launch area in the canal, I believe that's a viable idea for many reasons. First, I believe this board indicated that the state of New York or Putnam County, whomever it is going to dredge that canal. So that eliminates one cost factor for us if that area is dredged. I am concerned, as people have mentioned, about dredging around the outside of it, because it's just going to fill in. And if we start dredging it, we're going to make it a potential swimming area, which is something I don't believe we want to open our doors to.
No.
Right?
We
So
were
I
never
think we
intended to dredge out.
Yeah,
It's basically to beautify the channel and the shoreline. There's no major, massive dredging to create
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to.
And back to the launching, it's also an idea that was brought up, and we're going to discuss of maybe launching in the channel and bringing it back somewhere else to alleviate, to get a traffic pattern going. But that's something between the board and the Recreation Board.
But the representatives from the kayak here, they brought up a very important point about a staging area, right, for putting the kayaks in and out of the water. Dramatically important that we look at that and put that as part of our plan as a staging area.
Yeah, that's why.
Thank you very, very much. One other thing. We talked a couple of times about the bank's parking lot, 18 spots for it. And we said, well, it's not going to be used Saturday and Sunday. Well, the fact is it gets used till about 2 o'clock on a Saturday.
I misspoke. I meant to say it was open till, I think, 12 or 2 o'clock on Sunday,
Right.
on Saturday.
12.
12, okay.
Okay, and Charles just said about something about a farmer's market. My concern is we want to be good neighbors to our good neighbor, Tompkins Bank. We don't want people parking in the Mahopac Tompkins Bank parking designated area and leaving their car there until Monday morning or Monday afternoon or even longer. We should make sure that's a designated area.
They will be. They'll be marked.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
That was part of the negotiations with the bank.
Okay, so, sure.
As far as moving the kayak launch to the canal area, it's very mucky. We have to stand in water at least knee-deep to get into our boats, and if we're sinking up to our thighs, it's not going to work. So where the launch is right now is perfect. And if the canal area is going to be dredged, it has to be a hard-packed bottom, or we're going to be, squished in there. Just wanted to say.
All right, thank you. 3 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Esposito, did you have something else? So anybody who hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak, after Mr. Esposito speaks, then just come right up.
I forgot to mention that the state of New York has a municipal kayak launch at Ansville Creek. Don't spend a lot of money on a sand launch because it's going to be gone real soon. These are made out of the same material that most kayaks are made out of. Disabled people can use them. Elderly people can use them. So somebody take a run down to Ansville Creek and take a look at them. They're black. They're plastic. They're
Jimmy.
They've been there a long time.
We're gonna have Jimmy Gilchrist take a look at that. Jimmy's our recreation director.
Rich, why don't you, I mean,
Jimmy, you got to come up.
You can use this one.
Here, right here, Jim. Come in.
Just turn it on.
That kayak launch area that you're referring to?
Yes.
That was an idea that Kenny and I put together in about 5 minutes. All right, it was a quick thing just to get people in and out. The reason that the rocks are there is so somebody doesn't back up with a motorboat or the jet skis. So I specifically set it up so you couldn't get a small trailer down there. So I mean, one thing that we can do is we can set it up where we have an entrance ramp that's there now, clean it up a little better with the rocks, and then have an exit area that's maybe right next to it. But if you open it up wider, you're going to have people going over those parking stops and backing in small bass boats. So again, that was just a quick. That's not going to stay there. I dumped a load of sand in there.
I didn't think it was. I was
Yeah.
suggesting a solution that's already been found
Yep.
by the state. And if you go down to Cold Springs, their municipal launch has exactly what you're talking about. They have a special area for the kayaks to come in, and you have to get your boat off your car, and then you can park in the regular parking lot. But they have an area where you take the kayaks off, and it's right next to the launch. But you can't leave your car parked there. It has to be removed.
And where's that?
Cold Springs.
In Cold Spring.
It's
Okay. All right.
by the, you have to pass under the station.
And our plan for it was brought up before about how are we going to regulate who's using it, if they're residents, non-residents. Our plan is to set this park up for residents to be using the waterfront. So we would have a magnetized lock with an access card. Similar, they do it a lot of times on tennis courts and different facilities. You go over to the recreation department, you sign up for an access code, you show your identification to live in town, you pay a fee, you have your swipe card, you go down, you can open up the gate, get your kayak in, lock it when you're finished, and that's how we're going to regulate the general use access. We will have individuals down there working when we'll be renting kayaks, we'll be having classes. We were talking about you doing a sailing program, this is going back 14 years ago, Charlie. Long time ago. So we have so many great ideas that we want to get off the ground, but right now we've got to get over the hurdles of all the environmental studies, development. I mean, this was huge getting to this point. This took us about a year.
About a year, yeah.
So now we could really get to work on trying to get the permits in line. We tried to clean the park up so it's usable, just for people to go down. We threw some picnic tables down there. They're used every day. Every time they go down, people they're starting to use this area. So we're going to try our best to utilize it the way we can now, and until we can get the permits to really do the work you're talking about with correct access and all that stuff later on. But that's going to take some time, I would think, because we've got to come up with some kind of a seawall that goes around the whole park, so we don't lose. Right now, you're losing some of the soils that we have on around the Chamber Park and also Swan Cove. So either doing a rock or a planted barrier, we'll have to figure that out as the park is developed.
It's an idea meeting. It's not a construction meeting.
And speaking to what Andreas was talking about, removing the sludge, if the town wants to contact Bruce Kedrick at Guardian in Pennsylvania, he gave a 6-page report on how to remove it without dredging. It's very simple. It's an anaerobic bacteria. If you aerate it, it's no longer anaerobic. It flips and becomes aerobic. What does an aerobic bacteria do? It eats the product of anaerobic bacteria. It's the same way aerated septic systems work. It's very simple.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, and for full disclosure, it was Jimmy's idea to build that temporary kayak ramp. It was his design. I know he mentioned my name too, but it was more Jimmy. Good job, Jim. All right. So is there anyone here that hasn't come up, that didn't sign up, that would like to speak? Come on up at this time. Yeah.
The inlet.
The canal that's there, the inlet between the two parts, between the...
The beauty of it.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be dredged. It's filled with, yeah.
We have James.
All right, James?
Yes, thank you. I'm James Carmody from the Hamlet of Carmel. I appreciate the honest effort put into making a good park on Lake Mahopac. It really warms my heart to know that such care is going into this town. And I unfortunately want to address some of the arguments I'm hearing on the fundamentals of this project by the business community. I want to make it clear, Carmel is not a free market playground. We're a community of people trying to live our best lives. And for people who live here full time, parking lots that will not be utilized as admitted 9 months of the year will not improve our quality of life very much. But a park like this is much better at doing that. I feel if the businesses of Carmel want a parking lot for their businesses, they should not use the government as a pawn to do that. They should buy a property, convert it to parking, and maybe gift it to the town or publicize it, which would be effectively the same thing as what the original plan of this park was. So I feel the purpose of government was perverted with the original plan of this park, and I'm glad to know it's been resurrected and brought into an effective and meaningful alternative for our community. So I'm very grateful to know there will be more enforcement of the coding in the years ahead. As mentioned, that was an issue and needs to be handled if we're expecting more tourists and traffic and use of the Lake Mahopac. And I think that is the proper role of government, to have our people and our environment healthy thanks to the enforcement of protective codes. I don't think building a park using land that should be public is a good idea. I think parking lots should always be handled by the people who want them, not by the governments meant to represent the people as a whole. Finally, I am going to reiterate some of the fundamentals of our democracy, which seem to have been lost on the capitalists making their claims to this land. We are a country of the people, by the people, for the people, and when the people had a say on this project, we converted a parking lot to a park. That's democracy in action, and I'm proud of it. I'm very happy to know that this conversion happened thanks to the efforts of the Carmel community, and I hope that you as a town board keep to the people's will.
Okay, thanks, James. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Come on up at this time. Okay, so this was a great meeting. A lot of valuable input. Your suggestions are well noted. I filled a whole sheet of notes here. I know Susie did as well. And we're going to, moving forward, there's going to be another public meeting. This wasn't the only one. As I said earlier, we're going to have others. We could have one, maybe two others. We want to make sure that those who didn't have an opportunity to be here tonight do have an opportunity to meet with us and to give us their thoughts and ideas and suggestions on how this park and the downtown project should be built out and designed, including the municipal parking lot. So I want to thank you all for attending tonight. I really appreciate your efforts to come out here. It's not too bad. It's only about 9:40, so we did well. This is, as someone said, democracy in action. This is what I like to see, is all of you attending meetings Unfortunately, a lot of our town board meetings are not very well attended, so I'd like to see more and more of you attend town board meetings as well. So it's very, you learn a lot, it's very informative, and you participate in the process. So thank you all so much for being here. We will, we've noted all of your remarks and all of your comments, so we're going to be discussing that moving forward. But you will have ample time again to meet with the board and to discuss this project once more, and maybe twice more, okay?
Supervisor.
But we'll let you know when those.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all
Supervisor.
for being here. And then motion to adjourn.
No,
Motion to
Supervisor,
adjourn.
before you do that.
Second.
Just let the public know that we'll leave the boards up here and they can make comments to it. You're going to leave the boards up so people can comment on them.
All right, so we're going to leave the boards up. We're going to leave the boards up so people can comment on it.